Open-world games have long been a favorite among gamers for their freedom, exploration, and endless possibilities. So today in this video, I've got a list of top 12 best open-world games of all time. So, the first game on my list is Ghost of Tsushima, helping to bring the PS4's time as Sony's main platform to a satisfying close. Ghost of Tsushima is a painfully gorgeous game set during the 13th century in Japan. After becoming occupied by Mongols, Tsushima Island evolves into a war zone as Japanese rebels try to strike at the invaders. Players are cast as Jin Sakai, a samurai who fails to protect his master but is given an opportunity to make things right when he avoids death. Ghost of Tsushima's world is lavish, reasonably big, and filled with gripping content that is just waiting to be discovered. Even though the main story is nothing to write home about, the title makes up for it with an incredible setting. Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Insomniac has 3 great open-world Spider-Man games under their belt, all of which are worth playing for not just die-hard supporters of Marvel's superhero, but any fans of open-world projects. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 does not deviate too far from its predecessor's blueprints, largely opting to provide more of the same, which is far from a bad thing. This time around, players get to control Peter and Miles, along with MJ on occasion, 2 heroes who are similar but still have nuances that set them apart. Peter is ultimately given more attention, but both characters are a lot of fun to use and are highlighted splendidly throughout the story. For the open world, Insomniac crafted an even bigger map of Manhattan and New York, and it has never felt better to swing around the city. While fast travel is an option, and very quick due to the PS5's processing speed, Marvel's Spider-Man 2's basic movement is so enjoyable that the journey is often just as fun as the destination's action. In terms of sandbox content, the sequel could use some more variety and is not a significant leap forward from the PS4 games, especially considering those titles garnered criticism for their lack of exciting open-world missions. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Assassin's Creed has an impressive track record when it comes to crafting sandboxes based on historical periods, even if not every game is a masterpiece. Ubisoft's franchise has produced quite a few epics, quite a few of which would not look out of place among the best open-world games. That said, the series may have peaked with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. The pirate-themed adventure takes players to the West Indies and delivers a unique experience even within its franchise. This game was so successful that fans have been clamoring for Ubisoft to return to the sea ever since. Batman: Arkham City. Analysed purely on their open worlds, Arkham Knight might have the edge over Arkham City since its setting offers more variety, is bigger, and looks better. However, the latter is overall the superior game. Bruce Wayne purposefully gets thrown into Arkham City, a quarantined section designed to keep Gotham's worst criminals away from the public. Although by no means massive, Arkham City is a beautifully designed sandbox, dripping in gothic beauty and environmental storytelling. While the empty streets do hurt its immersion slightly, it does somewhat fit the story. Arkham City offers the best of both worlds, working brilliantly as a linear action adventure while also delivering plenty of optional content to keep completionists busy for a long time. The story is also one of Batman's best in gaming, and the project does a great job of capturing the comic's spirit. Grand Theft Auto 5? Rockstar Games didn't let up with its most recent Grand Theft Auto title. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a behemoth containing a vast open world set in and around Los Santos, which is inspired by Los Angeles. The sandbox is packed with an abundance of activities to keep players busy. As an open world game, GTA 5 is exceptional, presenting players with a lot of freedom on how they would like to leave their mark on the map. It is not just the world that delivers the goods though, as the game's story and characters are also great, while GTA Online has grown into a massive beast. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It was clear long before The Witcher Wild Hunt was released that developer CD Projekt Red had a hit on its hands. It is an adventure that truly needs to be experienced, even if players are discouraged by the combat's learning curve. Make sure to select alternative movement. Some boss battles are intense beyond words, and the quality of the game's side quests is far ahead of any other RPG released around or after 2015. Although not as diverse or gorgeous as some other environments, The Witcher 3's world is dense, immersive, and authentic to the franchise's lore. Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar might take its time developing a new project, but the company tends to make the wait worth it. Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place prior to 2010's entry, which is also one of the greatest open-world games of all time, and follows Arthur Morgan and the Van der Linde gang. Rockstar prioritized realism when crafting RDR2, and that extends to the protagonist's controls, the gameplay mechanics, and the world's presentation. Narratively, this game is a masterpiece with precious few peers. Horizon Zero Dawn. When playing Horizon Zero Dawn, don't be surprised if you suddenly feel a strange sense of culture shock. After all, it's hard to think of another game that so brilliantly weaves so much mythology and environmental storytelling into its world. And it's even hard to find a game that leaves you feeling like a stranger in a strange land even after you've spent dozens of hours with it. There is a visceral pleasure to watching mechanical monstrosities terrorize villagers in a world that feels so close, yet so far from our own. But this game truly shines whenever you take it upon yourself to dig a little deeper. Maybe aspects of Horizon Zero Dawn's open-world gameplay played it a bit too safe, but the quality of its lore, world, and characters immediately set it apart from nearly everything else out there. Shadow of the Colossus. Many open-world titles either don't feature enough content to justify their size, others go overboard and try to include a little too much content. Shadow of the Colossus is sparse by design, but it never feels that way thanks to its art, clever level design, and soundscape. The game nails a foreboding sense of isolation to accentuate the titular colossi, which serve as both boss battles and climbing puzzles. Each creature is a sight to behold and evokes both fear and pity. Thanks to its design choices, Shadow of the Colossus has long been cited in that video games are art debate that never seems to go away. It's also a fantastic example of how open-world games aren't limited to the formula they're sometimes reduced to. Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain. At first, I wasn't really sold on the idea of an open-world Metal Gear game. My initial time with Phantom Pain also didn't do a lot to convince me that the things that made Prior MG's games great necessarily needed a larger world to work. Indeed, the Phantom Pain ends up being a far more structured open-world game that doesn't even really strive for the living world concept seen in other genre titles. Interestingly, that happens to also be the very quality that makes this such an incredible open-world experience. The Phantom Pain doesn't offer the biggest or liveliest world, but it does offer the perfect environment for a Metal Gear game. Every aspect of the Phantom Pain's world was cleverly built to encourage you to explore the various tactical options made available to you. Here is an open-world game that is more interested in forcing you to answer the question, how do you make that happen, rather than, where can you go? Days Gone. I personally love Days Gone. It's an open-world, horror-themed game done mostly right. The open-world design feels more intricate and connected than most of its peers, with missions and side missions feeding off the world-building and greater narrative. And each encounter with freakers can be terrifying, not to mention traps and ambushes done by human enemies. You get a lot of weapons, but not too much. You feel powerful, but not overpowered. Days Gone may not have received nearly as much love as other Sony AAA games, but my god, I enjoyed it so much, and I'm glad it got a strong fan base. Since release, I didn't find the story to be amazing, but its characters are interesting, and the world building is done very well. If you want an open-world zombie apocalypse game with plenty of action and a bike companion that is fun to maintain, you honestly could do a lot worse than Days Gone. Mafia Definitive Edition was the most underrated game of 2020. It was an example of how remakes should be done. I played this over the summer last year and I fell in love. For a small little story and a relatively linear experience, it's easily one of the better games I've played. It didn't feel like a drag at any point and kept getting better. I recommend everyone should play this game.